Did you finish like high school or university or whatever it is, and then you just stopped learning? Or maybe you're trying to learn, but you just need somebody to teach it to you. Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of self-education. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? I was just laughing because I was remembering when I stopped my doctorate program, I was like, I am never going back to school again. And then I did a boot camp.
I know, right? It's tricky. It's like an addiction. It's like no, I'm never having another drink, and
Well,
then there you
you
go.
know what? It is kind of like that though. It's like it's like no matter what, even when you know like that it's the value's been just basically depreciated to nothing on these degrees and certificates. Even when you know that, it's still like the only option. Do you know what I mean? Like
That's
it's
just
still like
yeah. That just reminded me of from Arrested Development where Tobias and Lindsay are gonna have like what they're gonna have different partners in their relation, an open
Oh, and they go,
relationship.
maybe this.
And and, and Lindsay's like, does it work for them? Tobias is like, oh, it never works for them, but they deceive themselves into thinking it will work for them, but it
But
just
for
might work
us,
for us. Yeah.
I was just rewatching that. It's such a good show. The
Oh my
first few
gosh.
seasons are amazing.
Incredible.
But no, but it is kind of like that though. I think like, there's this like one, I think there's not a lot of like clear options. Like people aren't taught how to do it on their own otherwise. It's not like
Hmm.
there's clear options. And there is this like it's been ingrained in us forever that you need these
A
papers, these
teacher, a
certificates,
mentor,
a teacher.
a
You need
wise
somebody
person.
to like,
Hmm.
and don't get me wrong, like, and we both mentioned this before, like it's help, like it is nice when somebody put together a curriculum. Like this is what you want to know. Here's the stuff you need to know, right? To kind of get there. But is it really necessary?
That's a good point. I like the quote. I think it was like Ben Franklin or somebody who said, I never confuse my education with my learning. Because, it's like
Yeah,
going to university can be nice and everything. And I mean, we've both been down that road where we've gotten
several times.
degrees. Yeah,
It's not
several.
like,
Yeah. And still, like I literally just applied for another bachelor's things. Because like, what the heck? You might as well just accumulate. They're like Pokemon. Try and catch them all.
yeah, you gotta catch them
But
all.
yeah,
All those degrees.
but it's it doesn't compare with self-education. I think
No.
self-education is the best, but also it's a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was in college, even when I was an undergrad, and like, well, actually all through college, like I rarely ever um did exactly what was asked of me in terms of like readings and stuff. I was always just read whatever I felt like that was, adjacent
Yeah,
usually because it was in that field I was interested in, obviously, but like,
yeah,
and then I just figure out how to do my assignments relative to that.
yeah. Well, at least with philosophy, most of the books are like Penguin books. They cost like $15. In
A
the
lot of, yeah.
sciences, that's the biggest racket where they're charging like $1,000 a pop for
Oh,
one of
dude,
these,
it's gotten insane. Yeah.
23rd edition biology
Intro to
books.
biology.
I know.
Yeah.
And you need to get the newest one because the old ones can't use
Because the
them.
chapters are arranged in a different order. Literally, that's what they
Yeah.
do.
And then you
Oh, it's
never
insane,
and then
dude.
you never read them, never look through it. But it's like
I
crazy.
I actually, when I was teaching, I stopped using certain because I used to use textbooks can be convenient, like for like especially intro to philosophy classes and stuff. You want a bunch of readings, but you don't want to have to like. I stopped using them because they were getting like, dude, the one textbook I was using went from like $100 to like 280, and I was like, there's no way. And I mean, like they're using free out of because a lot of the
Hmm.
readings are ancient, so they're
Yeah.
using free readings that are out of whatever you call it.
Hmm.
What is that? Whatever the thing is,
Copyright.
yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I've been okay, so self-education is cool because you can teach yourself. And so like one of the things you do is you get to like buy books or materials that
yeah,
you actually will read. And
yeah.
so like it's crazy because I have this little library right now. When I say library, I mean it's like I have a bookshelf of books that are
You
like
have a separate room with a spiral staircase that goes up at least 3 floors.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so like I have a shelf on a bookshelf that's like all books on the topic that am like really interested in. And on one hand, I feel guilty because I've bought like 20 books or something like that. But then I take a look at how much I've spent on them, and the books are somewhere between like $10 and maybe like $40.
Yeah.
for the most expensive one each. So I spent a few $100s on it, and I feel guilty because I bought all these books. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, that pales in comparison to what I wasted on a university education by like a
For your
thousand
books for one
times.
semester. Dude, for
Yeah,
your books from forget living expenses, forget the actual courses, just on your books. That's nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
And plus, like, I just enjoy sitting back and reading these books because it's like the stuff that I actually want to learn.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's like one of the coolest. Like, that's I like doing that sometimes. Like when you have, if you're just trying like, because I think you can learn always, right? And I think sometimes like it's good to learn when you're trying to develop new skills and stuff. Sometimes it's fun just to learn something new, just because you feel like it. And like that's like something I like doing, where like I'll get books in a topic that I'm interested in, and then kind of let the book determine the next place I'm gonna go. So like, I'll start reading, I'll give you an example. Like I got this introduction to quantum physics because I was just felt like reading it one day. It was really good. The guy did a great job. And then that got me on a kick where then I started to read a book about black holes. And like, just going from one to the next, not really with a clear direction in mind, but just that I was reading a lot of sci-fi. I wanted to get back into learning some more of the science, like not so much the math, but the theory.
Hmm.
And like and it was great. I like doing that. It's a fun way to kind of, just learn new things and not necessarily need because I think a lot of people think like, well, if I'm going to learn something, I have to have like this plan. It has to go from point A to point B. It has to have tests and exam. And,
Hmm.
it really isn't necessary if you're just doing it like that.
Well, it's cool because with self-education, you can actually choose to learn stuff that interests you, as
Yeah.
opposed with traditional education where everybody has to learn humanities, everybody has to
Yeah.
take a biology course, everybody has to take a chemistry course, everybody. And it's like you learn all this useless stuff that you're just trying to get through. You're literally just trying to finish the class so you can be done with it. So it doesn't make much of a use case for it. But even like nowadays, okay, so like before it was kind of hard to make your own like plan because I think one of the things that draws people to university is like, the whole curriculum is set for them.
Well,
And
yeah, of course, dude. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you don't even have to think about the books you're going to
yeah.
buy.
You
It's
basically just have
overpriced
to
as
roll
hell,
out of
but
bed.
you
Yeah,
you
that's
get
it.
it. Yeah. Literally,
And
you just have to show up in your pajamas. That's all you
yeah,
have to do.
yeah. But like nowadays with AI, you can have it create an
Yeah.
entire curriculum for you. Like I wa I was telling you earlier how like I watched this video on prompt engineering, which was really good for helping craft like very good prompts. And one of the things I was able to make it do was have ChatGPT ask me questions to
Yeah.
basically figure out a a 1 year, 5 year, and 10 year plan for where I wanted to go based on my experience, my goals, different things like that. And it actually helped like clear a lot of the stuff out of the way and took a lot of the burden off because I was stressing myself out by trying to do too much in too quick of a time. And this
Yeah.
said, no, if you're trying to do that stuff, it's going to take like a long time. So like the first year, just focus on this. And then after 5 years, you can have this done. And then after 10 years, that.
No, I think that what your point though is a really good point about self-education, which is one of the things I think that can be really hard about it, is because you don't have a teacher, you don't have a guide guiding you. So it's not clear what pace you should be moving at, right? And like that's fine. Like what my example of like, learning like quantum physics, that was all just like for fun. So I wasn't in a rush to learn it. It wasn't anything pressure on myself. But if it's like skills you're trying to learn, there's no clear idea of how fast should I be doing this? How fast should I be making progress? What are my bars for success? And I think AI is actually really good for that kind of stuff because it can come up with a nice plan that you can then modify, but it'll give you a great starting point of like this is where you should start. And you can even tell it, like, I have this much time a day roughly to spend. I'm totally new into this, or I know this stuff. You can even give some of your own background, and that'll help kind of gauge. It's very good at that. And I think that is a good tool. Like, people are starting to hopefully use it more and more for stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
I also think is really interesting about you kind of pursuing quantum mechanics and black holes because like a lot of people won't do anything unless it will make them money or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no, I read a ton for no reason.
Yeah, which is
So,
actually a really cool way to like educate because education isn't just about making money.
no, it's about knowing things and lifelong and just pursuing the interest. I mean, I always just enjoy it. I like learning more about stuff. And
Hmm.
like there's stuff where like I'll put like, there's times when like I want to learn like something related to a hobby, like say photography, like a new method, and I'll put a lot of time in because that's a skill I'm trying to develop. I might have to practice, but like when you're just learning for fun, if you're just reading and stuff and just trying these things out, like it can be really nice, fun, and you just I don't know, expand your world, I think. There
Hmm.
is truth to that. Books open the world up rather than close
The more you know.
it.
Ding. Yeah. Yeah. So
But
the other thing,
on that,
um,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was
No,
just gonna say, like, the other thing is that you need to take it upon yourself to educate yourself because nobody's going to educate you. Like the people who are going to educate you that like make you go to public school, they're really just doing it for their own devices so they can get you stuck
yeah.
in this life that you end up just paying taxes for 40 years and then die. So if you want something more than
Yeah.
that or different, then you might have to self-educate.
But self-education also too, I think like you never know what you're going to be interested in. You never know what skills you're going to want to develop or pursue or you don't even know what you're missing out on if you don't know about other options and opportunities. And I think that's the other side of it. Like if you pursue self-education, it can, make you aware of things you had no idea about or things you might want to pursue. And it's like nowadays too, dude, like, oh my God, I remember like when we were younger, before like the internet was like ubiquitous and everywhere, it did take a lot of legwork to figure out like, okay, if I want to learn this, to put together like a reasonable idea of what you would do and so forth and so on. Nowadays, though, it's like there's so many resources. Like if you don't even like reading, you can go to YouTube and usually find a free audio version of the book being read, or you can get it for super cheap on Kindle anyway and listen. You don't even have to read. You can find, tutorial videos from like, I mean, there's tons of universities post lectures up that you can even watch. I mean, like there's so much material, it's absurd. Like there's no reason not to. And like
Hmm.
another good side thing was like if you are interested, this is just I just remembered this. Like if you are interested in learning a specific like area, like say like, I don't know, whatever. If you look at like what current university are using the books, you can usually find that out. Just find the book and look at the chapters, how they're organized. That'll give you a good idea of how to organize your learning.
Hmm.
Because usually they're structured, like the sciences and stuff, like it's technical stuff, like STEM stuff is very structured in a progressive way because you need to build up those, remedial skills first, and then you build up to the more complex stuff. So that's always a good way too to figure out a path, is just start there too.
Hmm. That's a great point. Uh, what you reminded me of when you were talking about that is like the amount of information that's out there nowadays. So we're kind of living in a world of information overload. And I just heard an interesting analogy about how to look at it because like a lot of people get into this information collection mode where they just go all like, squirrel in the wintertime and just try and accumulate as much stuff as they can. But a good analogy is to think of it as a river. So like you just go and you enjoy whatever part of the river you're in at the moment. Whatever stuff you can't get now, just let it go because there's still going to be like ever growing
Yeah.
stuff coming down the river. And so you can just like not have to worry so much about not getting all of it right now because there's more coming.
Well, I think that's the other thing too. I think people get discouraged quickly when they're learning on their own too, because they feel like, maybe they're not processing or understanding everything
Hmm.
in something.
I was
And I
there.
know like one
Yeah.
thing, yeah, one thing you got to learn with reading and self-education too is just that you're not going to understand everything. That's okay. But if you
Hmm.
understand 10% of a book you read, that's better than none at all. And it'll just keep getting better and better as you keep working on that area, right? It just keeps getting easier and easier to take that stuff in. And you realize you know less and less the more you understand, right?
Yeah, I really like that parable of like the student and the Zen master. And the student asks the Zen master, he's like, "How long will it take me to learn to reach enlightenment?" And the Zen master's
That's what
like,
we want to know, right?
yeah, it'll take 10 years." And the student's like, "But what if I try really hard and I put everything into it and I meditate from morning until night and it's all that I think about and all that I focus on, I don't take any breaks. What then?" And the meditation teacher's like, "Well, in that case, it'll take 20 years." And he's like, "What are you talking about? How can it take longer if I'm putting everything into it?" And he's like, "If you're focused that hard on it, you're going to miss out on all the stuff, all the like the
Well, if
extra
you're only
stuff that
focused on
comes
the
with it."
goal, right?
Yeah.
If that's all you're interested in, I think that's one of the biggest injustices we've done with our education system is we've made everything about the result, nothing about the journey, like
Hmm.
nothing at all. And so all everybody cares about is I gotta get an A, I gotta get that piece of paper for. forget like whether I even do my assignments, understand or retain any of this, or even care about the subject, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's totally destroyed us, like really in terms of like self-education is great because you can like that's the other thing I like about it. You can just do projects, like assign yourself projects, to do. Like there was a great one, I'll give an example. When I was getting back into photography, I was watching there's these great courses on LinkedIn learning for photography. And the guy had a really good suggestion. He's like, one of the best things you can do is give yourself like a task, like a project, and spend like 3 months or a year on it. Like for example, it's like, and it could be anything. He's like, pictures that like show like, some emotion like anxiety or stress or something. That could be your topic. And then spend 3 months just doing pictures of that until you
You're
can get a
just like
good
taking pictures in the mirror for 3 months, being like,
yeah.
"This is me stressed out."
No, but like, that was a weird example, I guess, of emotion. But point being, though, it's a good idea though, because you can do these like projects on your own that give you a start and finish point, but they also help you develop those skills and you work out those problems as you go.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just every morning.
Yeah. I know. I keep like a version in my where I keep my notes. I have a version of that Zen Master parable that I look at pretty regularly
It's a good
because
one.
for a long time I was under the impression that if I work extra hard and I just, if I grind and I focus and I go really, really hard, then
Yeah.
I'll get there faster. And so it's a good reminder for me to kind of take it easy and actually enjoy the times when I'm off the beaten path. Like learning coding and stuff like that, so many
Yeah.
times you're trying to do something and you just reach a roadblock and you have to go down this other direction in order to actually learn what you need to do to get to the next thing. And for so long, I was stuck at just getting past that thing that I would kind of miss out on all the stuff that I would
Where you learn a
learn.
ton,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's stuff that you wouldn't have encountered unless you ran into that problem, which is awesome. And I think you're right, though. Exactly. That's what we miss out on. We miss out on all the detours and stuff where you really learn a lot. And it's like, it's also the joy of it, I think, that people forget. Like, most people, I think, naturally do like learning. They do like, because like I think Karl Marx actually said it really well, which is like, he basically said that, we only can realize our power in the world. Like I can only know that I can do something if I physically do it. Like I only know I can build a chair if I build a chair, right? And
Hmm.
so like when we learn stuff and then we do practical things with it, we're basically realizing our powers in the world. And that's a really cool feeling. It feels really good and we see that progress in reality,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
before us. And I think that's yeah, it's awesome. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be necessarily for anything, but I think you never know, like that's the other thing, like even if it's not for money, because I do lots of learning for nothing, but like you never know where that's going to take you to or when it's going to apply and how that might help you in other areas that you don't know about yet.
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, you look at children and they're naturally inquisitive, like always learning.
Oh, God, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all they want to do, right? So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So there you have it. Why self-education is important. Uh, if you enjoyed this, you wouldn't believe it, but we actually have like how many are I think we're
What?
at 5 other episodes we're at.
What? Oh, like
No, we have hundreds of
we have
other
like
episodes.
almost, I think we're like, this is like gotta be like, we're in the 430s, 440s or something, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
400 some episodes available on YouTube, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Until next time, our friends, this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later.